So I played the prologue for 1666 Amsterdam, and I have some thoughts. Now, I don't mean to sound maybe completely or overly negative because that's not my takeaway from this. I do have positives from my experience, or at least positives to take away, but I am a little concerned. Now, if you don't know, this game was announced during Summer Games Fest. There might have been talks about it, rumblings in the past, but this is the first time the game's really seen the light of day. The creator was the director of the first two Assassin's Creed games, so he has a track record in the business. He's not new to making games, and this seemed to be a passion project of his that was kind of on and off for a while from one or two different publishers, developers, and finally it's sort of now seeing the light of day. And my initial reaction after the trailer was that it looked intriguing. I really liked the environment and the setting, but there was a lot of unknowns. We didn't know what the gameplay loop was going to be like. We didn't really know much about the characters, anything like that. And so it really was just a, hey, this is what this game might be about. This is the gist. And they just kind of maybe hope that that would be enough. Maybe the name of the creator and his past track record would kind of prop the game up a little bit. But the issue is the games that he's most known for, it's been so long that I don't think many people, especially maybe younger gamers, know who he is. And truthfully, I didn't know who he was, and then I saw his track record. I was like, okay, I've played those games. I enjoyed those games. And not all of his games, but specifically the first two Assassin's Creed games. I was like, okay, I have enjoyed his product before. Now, just sort of a general overview of what the game seems to be is you are a witch in 1666 Amsterdam, as the name would imply. And that was about it from the trailer. But as far as the prologue goes, we do get some story and background there, so we can sort of anticipate what may be to come in the main game. You are a young witch named Noah. You are off to a commencement ceremony, so to speak. So I'm assuming a new witch, maybe inexperienced or maybe hasn't been doing it for that long. I say it like it's a job. I don't know if you're born with that stuff. Whatever. The main power seems to be this energy called Lux, and you'll gather it from, at least in the prologue, it was from corpses, specifically dead animal corpses. I'm assuming there will be people as well, and maybe some other, sources. So in the prologue, you do get introduced to 4 different characters, I believe it was, 3 of which are all within Noah's bloodline, or I would assume they are based on the narrative of the prologue itself. And so aside from Noah, you have Cleo, who maybe seems to be the character you will see most of in modern day. I don't know how much we'll get into modern day in the main game, but it did seem to be an important point, at least in the prologue. Second was Cleo's father, Aaron, who sort of reveals to Cleo through these protected coded messages or letters that she is in fact of a witch bloodline. And then there was a professor at the school who was helping Cleo decipher these coded protected letters. I can't remember his name. Professor Lucas. And so it seems you'll kind of go a little bit back and forth between the past as Noah and more modern day as Cleo, and then somewhere in between as her father Aaron. In the prologue, this was the 90s specifically. And I know this was marketed as a prologue and not a demo. And so I guess from that you can infer that this was going to be more story driven than gameplay driven. They wanted to give you a taste of how did we get to what the main game is going to be. But I'm not going to lie, it didn't seem very fleshed out. It seemed a bit rushed. The script specifically is what gave me the most worry. I'm not going to put any blame on the voice actors. I feel like they were just working as best they could with what they were given. And considering that the team that is making this game had already mentioned some stuff about generative AI in the trailer and in the prologue itself, I wouldn't be surprised if the script had some AI within it as well, because it wasn't great. And then there were little things like little QA discrepancies, like what the subtitles said were maybe like a word or two off compared to what was actually being said by the characters. And then a couple of the mechanics didn't make sense to me. Like in the beginning, you are asked to enchant some torches and some like pyres, and you have to separately enchant them and then also separately ignite them, which if the end goal was to ignite these in the first place, I don't see why you didn't just do that from the beginning. It just seemed like an extra button click for no reason, but that's kind of a minor thing, as well as in the modern day when you're kind of sorting through bookshelves as Cleo, you were asked to search in bookshelves, and instead of just opening the book, they went through the trouble of animating the book falling off of the shelf and then you having to separately like actually open the book, which why not just open the book to begin with? Maybe that's just me, but that just seemed weird and unnecessary. So yeah, there were just things that just didn't seem fully fleshed out. And according to an article from Game Informer, they're looking to put this into early access later this year, which for what I'm assuming is going to be a single player narrative driven, story mode game, that seems a little weird. Because why are you going to put a story mode game into early access? I don't know how big the game's going to be. Maybe it's going to be really big and early access is only going to give you like what is going to be a glimpse at what the whole game will be. No, maybe they need money? Maybe they need money and that's why they're going into early access? I'm just confused as to how far into development this game is. If they're announcing it, putting out a prologue, but also saying they're going into early access. Like, how far into the development cycle are we actually? How much of this game is fleshed out? How much needs to be sort of picked apart and, how much of it needs to go through that quality assurance process? There's a lot of questions that I have about the steps that they're taking and what the game is going to be that I haven't lost all optimism. I still have some optimism and excitement for the game, but it makes me nervous and concerned about what the final product would be. And considering just how many games are slated to come out, not that this is going to come out in like the gauntlet that will be September and October, but it moved back down my list a bit after this. I'm not going to lie. I can't help but feel like this prologue hurt my perception of the game. I would have rather just had the trailer and them just said, we'll be announcing more later. And that's it. I do think there's good ideas within the game. Like, it just needs to be cleaned up a good bit. I'm hoping whatever funding they get from early access, if they do go down that route, like goes to making this game better and polishing it up and getting it over that finish line in as good of a place as it can possibly be. Just seems like there's a couple cracks in the foundation. Like, it's really close to being a good foundation, but somewhere along the way, one or two steps were missed, and then these little cracks began to form that, may not make the whole place come crumbling down, but they're hard to ignore. At the very beginning of the prologue, they have some message from the team as you're walking down the woods, and it says that they know what their destination is, but I guess they need help getting there. And I guess my concern is if you don't make the journey worthwhile, then I don't think many people are going to stick around to see what the destination is. There's a crossroads of making a good game and being financially successful, and they don't always intersect exactly as you would hope they would. But with a new team or a brand new game like this, I feel like the stars have to align well if it's going to flourish in a day and age where it's easier for a game to sink than it is to swim. I want this to be good. As I said, I've been looking not that I've been looking forward to it, but as soon as the trailer came out, I started to look forward to this. The prologue has concerned me a bit. It has dulled my excitement. At the end of the day, it's not the final product. I hope we get to see more. I hope we get to see more gameplay from the main game and what that gameplay loop will actually be. I hope we get to see maybe a little bit more of the characters that are going to be involved. But yeah, the whole early access thing feels weird to me. And maybe I'm just in my own head. A lot of games go into early access, but this seems like a weird situation. If you played the prologue, let me know what you thought about it. If you did not, but you're still sort of keeping an eye on this game, let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on it, how you feel about it. It seems like we're still going to be waiting a while, so I'm not going to hold my breath yet. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Bye.